What's up, everybody, and welcome back to the Watching Now podcast over here on CouchSoup, where we are diving into every new episode of Halo Season 2. That's it, Spartans. We are back with episode 4 of Season 2. And man, oh man, did we get an episode 4?
Did we? We sure did.
Did we? Anyone?
I thought it was
we're all speechless. That's yeah, we got an episode. We got a hell of an episode 4. There's tons of stuff to unpack, so let's get right into it and introduce our cast for this episode. We have myself, Nick. We also have Dan.
I need a weapon.
And we have Tom.
Pew, 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 pew.
It's a bit early in the morning for Tom, so he may be half asleep for this whole thing, but we get fine. Yeah. So welcome everybody to episode 3 of our Watching Now podcast. We're going to be diving into episode 4 today, and there's quite a lot of stuff to unpack. It was an action-packed episode with tons of stuff to get into. So I'm very excited. But before we get into that, I thought it'd be really interesting to talk about some theories that we have on season 2. Obviously, we're kind of at the mid-season point. There's 8 episodes in season 2, right?
I believe so, yeah.
Was it 9? But it's 8, yeah. So basically, we're halfway through. I mean, it feels so quick, but obviously, we had the first episode or the first 2 episodes dropped. So we're halfway through the season already. So let's talk about some theories. What do we think that we might be able to see? We talked about theories before in previous episodes, but I thought maybe we could start expanding on them. One that I'll kick us off with is I really feel it's not really setting up, but I just have this feeling that McKay, who now like 100% confirmed is alive, McKay, I think, is going to betray or turn on the Covenant when they find Halo, which I think will only be in like the last episode. But I think that she'll turn. I think that there'll be something will happen there. What do you guys think about that?
I think that's a very fair assumption based on how season 1 ended, as well as how the fact that, jumping ahead a little bit, what she did this episode, that aside, I mean, she already has this notion that she doesn't want any one race to be like taking over the galaxy. And she might already know that the Covenant are planning on killing her anyways, because they flat out said that at the end of the last season was like, oh yeah, she's going to burn like the rest of the humans.
As soon as we're done with her, she's gone.
Yeah.
So that could be interesting to see. Tom, what do you think?
I was going to say, I think it's 50-50. Of like she's going to betray them or not, because they could have done something to her memory. If they have the power, the technology to bring her back, maybe they have the same to be like, oh, guess what? No, they killed you. It was all them. We might be dicks, but like they're bigger dicks. So like we'll help you. We promise we won't take over the world, but like come on, help us.
Okay, but on that, you said they have the technology to bring her back. Do you think that she actually died at the end of season 1?
I say, is it even McKay?
That will be
okay.
Proper
theories.
Sort of deal.
Aliens. I just want to like put that meme in now of that guy going aliens.
Right.
Aliens are like the dartboard with like the string.
It's all connected.
That's what it was. Brandy and Monarch.
Oh my gosh.
I've got 2 that I think will probably happen by the end of this season. One, I think Kai has betrayed Chief and the other Spartans and all that stuff, and is helping Axel with the Spartan 3s, because with something that's happened in this episode, and well, something's missing. What can you use if you have a base of it already, and you can make more of it? And then Kai will be training the Spartan 3s, because also one of the episodes is called Onyx, and Onyx is the planet where the Spartan 3s were trained. So,
are you digging?
I'm fairly certain that Kai is just like helping train, because I think Spartan 4's June in like the actual game lore, he helped him. It's like another Spartan training more Spartans. So that's what I think for Kai. And I don't like Kai now because she's a traitor.
Shit. That is a great theory. I like this. This is a super good opener. I like this. Come on, Dan, keep it going.
Didn't you have 2, Tom?
Oh, yeah, true. Yeah. Well, the other one is it's still that like by the end of it, Quan will have something to do with the flood, because obviously big evil monster is Gravemind, which I know, Dan, you don't want to happen because it is too early.
Not yet.
But I think by the end, Quan will be like, it'll be like one of the stingers at the end of the episode. It'll be like the flood, and then you'll see like a little spore just like float
It's still
across.
so too soon though. We've barely even seen the Covenant.
Yeah,
I
I feel like
know.
I feel like it's too much too soon, but I mean it's not a bad theory.
They need to hype people up for a
Plausible.
season 3 if they want it. They need
Yeah,
to be like,
that's true.
hey, remember, if you give us another season, we got this, guys.
Yeah.
There
Well,
you go. Dan, what you got?
my big theory still stands that I think that this season that we're on now is the kind of like what happens in the fall of Reach, the games, the movies, whichever version of that you want to go with, because it's kind of like leaning hard into that already. I think by the end of the season, we will see them going to the Halo, and that will be where the next season starts. And season 3 will essentially be the events of Halo 1, facsimile their version of. Trying to not think too hard on the information we already know, but
Okay.
so-
See, I mean, it's kind of one of the difficulties of adapting source material is that, while you're watching the show, you're kind of thinking about the source material and you're like, ooh, I know what happens there. But you kind of hope, like it's always a debate, I think, with adaptations. It's like you kind of hope that they change things so that you don't know what's coming, but you also kind of hope that they don't change things because you have to be faithful.
It's such a weird
interesting
thought too, because like I'm thinking about it now, like man, I get kind of salty when the story differs from what the games did, but at the same time, if a game is remade, I like when they change things because it keeps me on my toes. So it's like
it's interesting.
But I also think for Halo specifically, I think it's okay if they change a bit because they set up from the get-go. They're not like, we are direct adapting a book or a game. Like, it's just like, cool. Same characters, same world, same universe, but like, this is a whole new thing. So like, we might pull from games and books, but don't expect one-to-one. And they set that from the get-go. If they do the weirdest stuff in different directions, it's like, you can still like, I don't like this, but you're not going to be as pissed at it. Because like, no, this is what they said they were doing.
But we did have a banger episode, which we were waiting for and was building up towards.
Yes. 100%. Yeah. So to use that as our segue, episode 4 was a banger indeed. We finally had our big action-packed episode, and it was just a big blast the entire run through. So without any further ado, let's get into the sit rep for episode 4. Alrighty, so the sit rep for episode 4 opens with what is, I guess, now retrospectively a really sad scene. We'll get to why it's sad a little bit later, but we got to see Vanak on a rooftop he's playing with birds, kind of continuing his whole thing where he's like really interested in nature and animals and stuff like that. I thought it was a really cute little scene where he was like feeding the birds and stuff, and it was really cool. And then he obviously sees the explosions in the distance, and we obviously see, and I was so glad that it was like, boom, explosions, let's get into the action, and not like, let's build this up again for like another 10 minutes or something.
I just want to jump in. I found it funny how last week, like Brandy and all of us were all like, "Oh, what's in the little bag he got? Is it the pellets? Is it anything?" But then it's just bird food. It's just bird food.
Yeah.
We were all like thinking, "Oh, is he gonna put his pellet back in? Oh man, this is like such a crazy thing. What's gonna happen? What's in there?" And it's freaking bird feed. I mean, it was still cool, but like, come on, bro.
It was funny.
Dude, I bet you the showrunners, the writers, were not even putting too much into that moment. They were just like, yeah, Vanak just got something out of his locker. We needed him. We needed a shot of him. So then we get off to a bang, and we see Perez and Chief starting to run through the streets of Ridge as it's being attacked by the Covenant. And something I noted early on was I was going to say I love the first action sequence where Perez is going to see if she can rescue her family. She's like running off to her family, and then there's this really cool shot where Chief is like right next to an explosion and it sends him flying, and it's this really, really cool Steadicam one-shot take of like the whole scene, and I just absolutely love that one-shot take. I love one-shot takes. Any film that has one-shot takes for like a scene like a couple of minutes long, it's always one of my favorite things. Then you get
like that realistic, like the camera's like running over to him like it's another person on the street.
It's so hype, and I love it when they do that. And we got a ton of those one-shot takes in this episode. And I mean, the first thing I was going to talk about it a little bit later, but I'll talk about it now. This entire episode was shot so well. like all of the battle scenes and everything, the cinematography was so good. There was some great CG to complement all of it as well. Like all of the like destruction and the action on Reach was so well presented. I don't know how you guys felt about it, but like I just thought it was like the production value of it was super, super high.
I loved it because like I'm the same as you. Where I love it like the steady cam, so like one shot sort of deals. And as I was just watching, because they were broken up a bit, but every time just like, damn, this is like really, really good. I really like this, especially like when Perez went to go get her family, and like she's running, I need to get my family. She's like, okay, you go get your family. Then just bang, and it's just gone. But you don't see the entire destruction. So like you think, oh, maybe they are like hiding under the rubble, and then you just see Chief go, yeah, and you just continue continue the shot, and it's like nope, the entire thing's just vaporized, and like Chief is just like, nah.
Now I realize they did that at least twice in the show, because there's another scene where they did the same thing where the explosion happens off camera, but then you're like, oh, maybe it wasn't that bad, but then the camera turns and you're like, oh, not so good.
Pretty intense scene to show us the Covenant are really like they're going at it, dude. Like they're attacking. I just wanted to like ask it. Maybe I'm a bit confused. Why is the Covenant attacking Reach first? They need to get the artifact, right?
What do you mean by first?
I'm wondering because they're going to glass the planet. So why don't they just glass the planet instead of attacking first?
From what I understand, there was a description given during the briefing about the protecting the power, and they were basically saying that the ground forces were coming in to take out the power so they can take out their air defenses. So the ground units were there to take out the air defenses so that they can come in to glass the planet.
Right, because I was thinking it's like a Death Star kind of thing where they can just shoot it from like outer space.
No, they got to be in orbit above the planet, and then they.
Okay. All right, so it makes a hell of a lot more sense than Star Wars.
Yeah,
is what we're saying.
It's a little bit more realistic in this.
A little bit more realistic.
Actually, it's more realistic than Star Wars. Excuse me.
Actually, anyway, so that's
Halo Wars.
Why the Covenant are here. Halo Wars. But just on that opening scene, I think Perez is still such a great character. I think she's really cool because she's sort of a focus on the more human story. You know, she sort of feels everything. She's just lost her family, in the first attack, and she kind of feels like that character that you can see how, humans are being affected by everything that's going on.
So
I'm really liking her character. I mean, what do you guys think of Perez?
I really like Perez for sure, but also the other thing that's happening during this scene when she's expressing her feelings, especially when she kind of like stops and breaks down, and Chief is like, "Hey, we got to get to FleetCom," and she goes off on him and like, don't you feel anything? Does this not bother you? She's like, I just lost my family, my loved ones. She's like, there's no training for this, and Chief is just a stone. He doesn't talk. He just looks at her, and like this is the Master Chief of the video games. Like he's more embodying that character because he's like, he hears her, he knows it, he's feeling it. But just as a soldier with his training, he's like, yeah, I know this is the reality of the situation, but that doesn't change anything. We still got to go. We got to get the FleetCom. And then when he's like, well, I'm going to go, you can come or not. I don't care. Like, and she's just like, fuck it. Like I got to go. I thought that really resonated. So I enjoyed that. And I enjoyed how they're developing Perez because she kind of didn't really have much going on before, and now all of a sudden she's kind of like this counter-human element to Chief throughout this episode.
I think that they're doing the human perspective better than what they did last season. I think she fits the bill better than like your Kwans and like your Soren storylines. I think in this like story they're telling, I think she fits the bill of here's what normal people are experiencing. I think she does that better than like what Kwan was last season. So they've learned.
I mean, to beat Kwan's story is not exactly difficult.
Well, I'm getting praised, Nick. Shut up.
I'm sorry, Kwan. Okay, I'll shut up now. So the next thing I thought that was really, really cool is when when the Covenant's really attacking Breach and everything, Chief kind of looks up and he sees nothing, but like he sees something, and he can I don't know if he can like sense them or he's just got that good vision, but he can see the elites that are invisible and they start coming down. And then Chief takes on an elite, like the invisible elite, like tackles him through that window into that shop, and they start going at it. Chief unarmed taking on an elite, and it was like such a cool fight.
The way that they did the camouflage reminded me so much of the games.
Mhm.
because as soon as like if you're standing still in the game, like you're completely invisible. As soon as you start moving, it fades a bit, and like you can sort of see like the outlines and your
You get
outline
that
as well. So
distortion.
yeah, so
Yeah.
like because it's not perfect.
That was
So
very close to how it is in the games with the cloaked elites, and I thought that was very well done. How they did that, where you can
Yeah.
just kind of see that little bit of a blur happening.
the way they're incorporating stuff like that from the games, that it's not like super on the nose, but like if you've played the games and you know it, like you can pick it out, like oh yeah. So I think
Almost like an
the
Easter
fight,
egg kind of thing.
Mhm.
yeah, and I think it combines with the badass fist fight where like he kicks the elite's ass. I think it was very well done,
I think
and again, it was a long shot.
Yeah, another long shot, and it's also the thing that shot really does is establish how powerful John is by himself, without the armor, without weapons. He's able to take on and defeat an elite as he is, just normal without any weapons, unarmed.
Yeah. I think that was an important distinction as well, to say that like Master Chief is not just the armor, like he's still, because he's been augmented, he still has his strength and ability and stuff. So it was nice to sort of see him kick ass without the armor, to let us know that, hey, this guy's actually still like pretty much badass. One thing that was interesting as well with Chief and Perez is like it's kind of a scene or two later, is that they're scrambling through the Covenant's attack, and it's all really tense, and there's a lot of action and things like that. Then they have a quieter moment where Chief tells Perez about his ability, and he says that like someone flipped a coin 10 times and he guessed right every time because he knew it, kind of hinting at like that's his ability and things like that.
He's lucky.
And I really kind of like was reading into that, because it's like you say he's lucky.
That's actually a thing in the books. This is why I'm like, I have big input on this, because that scene that he's talking about with the lady flipping the coin, that's in the Fall of Reach. That happens in the Fall of Reach, where it's actually Halsey is the woman flipping the coin when he's 6 years old. She comes and like scopes him out, and that's how she tests him. She says, "I have a coin here. It's from a long time ago. It's got an eagle and a head on it. If I flip the coin, I want you to call it either heads or tails, whether it's the head or the eagle." And she does it, and he calls it right every single time. And that's where Halsey actually has this thing of he's lucky. Like to her, that's an ongoing narrative in her head about John, that he is a lucky person. That's part of what makes him such a great soldier. But it's also that he does know, he does see it. Like he can actually tell. Like he's that sharp. He's that smart.
I was thinking, yeah, he's not lucky. He can actually just like see the coin as it lands, kind of thing, because he's just that good at it.
Which then, like in that same scene, when then he talks to Perez about like, I can go into battle because I know every time I'll make it out. And she's like, oh, but it must be nice for some people, and he's just like, not really.
Yeah.
And like, because that just showed that again, like even if he is stone face, he's still
very aware, and he has the emotions and the feelings to go along with it, where he's like, yeah, not really, like,
yeah,
he does sense it, he does feel it, but he's just that he's chief about it. He checks all of his emotions like a proper Spartan soldier should. So
I thought it was quite interesting as well that Chief says, he talks about that the sort of luck or whatever, and Perez is kind of like, yeah, that's like a power, you're really lucky or whatever, and he says it's kind of a curse, which I thought was very intriguing. I thought it was like Chief is kind of saying like his power, his ability has kind of been like a curse because he kind of didn't want to be a Spartan and things. Did you guys read anything into that? I thought it was quite interesting.
I didn't catch him saying curse, and I don't take it that way, because from what I know with John and Chief, he's always loved being a Spartan.
Okay.
So
I thought it was kind of interesting, like the whole sort of, the revelations in the first season of Chief, being kidnapped and augmented and kind of forced into being a Spartan. It kind of seems like he's just not really vibing with it, and he's like, man, I don't want to live this life, kind of thing. So I don't know if they may be setting something up. But I mean, there's no way that Chief is like, cool, I don't want to be a Spartan anymore, because that's
the show.
Halo. That's the whole thing.
That's the series.
Yeah, so we're not getting rid of that. We then move on with Chief and Perez, and they get into this old, like, it's an antique shop which I thought was like kind of a funny scene. They get in there with this old lady who's like, put that axe down. That axe is from Earth.
Like, that's
You know,
600
and
years old.
she's got like she's got like this
It's
old
vintage.
antique store of like, all this stuff. And she asked Chief to like put a typewriter back up on the shelves. And they're like, lady, there's a freaking Covenant invasion. Like, get the hell out. Like, Perez was the voice of reason in this scene. She's like, none of this stuff matters. We need to get the hell out of here. And then
But
Chief is like, all of it matters.
I really liked it because it just showed like another perspective of a normal person during this, because it's like someone who has lived here all their life has like built it up and they just can't let go.
Yeah, there's no reason to live if they lose what they have, essentially. So they'd rather die protecting their life.
And that's like such a recurring theme in this whole episode, with two of the bigger moments, which we'll get to. But that's like a big theme about Reach in the whole season so far, really, is this whole kind of like, it's too important to let go. I don't want to live without this kind of thing. And I mean, Atkinson giving up on Reach and leaving is someone who said no to that, which is kind of interesting. He let go of his dad. He let go of Reach. You know, I mean, he obviously got rid of the Spartan program because that's what he wanted to do out of hatred and whatnot. But he very much was like, I can let this stuff go. I can get out of here. And I think that's going to come back on Atkinson because it's such a big thematic element that they hammering down at the moment. So I think I'm very excited to see what they do with Atkinson's story in terms of that emotional journey. But we'll get there. As we'll for this episode.
Before we move on, did you guys catch the Easter egg in the closing shot of that scene?
No.
Can't remember. I'm sorry.
The final shot of that scene, as the woman is watching them leave the shot, she's standing in front of one of her shelves and she's looking back at them. On the shelf next to her is an original Xbox.
No ways.
Hell yeah. I had a moment. I'm like, oh, there's an Xbox. The OG Xbox, like, but it was like, it was missing the center circle, but it was an OG Xbox.
Do you think it was missing the center circle because of the logo? Like they couldn't put the logo on screen?
No, I think they were just trying to make it look old.
Possibly, yeah. But what a cool Easter egg. I completely missed that.
I was so nerding out, and I'm like, oh, I can't wait to bring this up.
Hell yeah, go Xbox. Right, so moving on. We had a couple of interesting scenes with Halsey and Soren. So one of the big cliffhangers we had from the last episode as well is that Soren finally revealed that Atkinson captured him because he was a Spartan and he obviously wanted to make all the Spartans pay and blah, blah, blah. And he took Soren to meet with Halsey. And it was I was very interested to see how that interaction was going to go. What's Soren going to do? Is he going to attack her? What's going to happen? And they were kind of super chill throughout the entire episode. They were staying together, helping each other a little bit. And what I thought was interesting is that Halsey was very interested in Soren's life. She was saying, how is Kessler? How are those things kind of going? And one thing I noted, I don't know if this is a big deal at all, but Halsey said that, she said, having a kid, like whatever I can imagine, as in she doesn't have any kids. I mean, is that a big deal at all?
I think
she's always been focused on her work, I guess.
I think in her own unique Halsey way, she was trying to like relate to Soren, because she has Miranda. And I guess the Spartans are. She thinks.
I think she thinks of the Spartans as her kids more than her own kid.
That's what I was kind of getting from it. Yeah.
Later on, she does seem a bit concerned about where she is, but we'll get to that as well. But I really liked how like this was sort of sowing the seeds, like because like Halsey shouldn't know about Kessler. Like Soren's been off doing his own fucking thing. So like, how does Halsey know? And then it's just like, oh, has Halsey just been letting him do this entire time? It circles back to that for like a big reveal, and you're like, oh shit. But I really liked what they did the entire episode with these two.
Yeah, I mean, they build up. We're getting to later things, but it builds it up really nicely. Where it's also revealed in these scenes that Soren actually wanted to be a Spartan. He wasn't like kidnapped into it, And I'm kind of thinking, is this building up to Soren maybe becoming a Spartan again? And I'm not talking about just putting on the armor. I'm thinking, does Soren maybe become like a captain or a sergeant or something, and maybe he starts training the new Spartans? Do you guys see Soren becoming a Spartan again? Like maybe Halsey kind of convinces him to rejoin the program?
Possibly. It's hard to say.
I'm feeling that for Soren. I'm feeling like that's kind of, he's had this whole morality shift where he becomes a pirate, and then he's kind of, I think he's coming back to this side, and he's going to be like, he's going to see everything that happened on Reach, and he's going to say, okay, this is the fight.
Well, the whole start of
I
that
need to
scene
join the
too,
Spartans again.
you go into it thinking that Soren's about to like rip Halsey a new one and like just tear her in pieces, and then they start talking, and Soren's like, "I've been thinking about what I'm going to say to you for all these years," and she goes, "Okay, well, what are you thinking then?" And then he just walks away, and it's like, okay, but then as they continue to talk, you start learning more about their relationship, and then like Soren must not be that mad at her apparently because he wasn't ready to kill her like we thought he was. Like, why was he trying so desperately to find her? Why was he going out of his way to find her? For what reason? Unless maybe he secretly wants to be a Spartan still, and that's why he wants to find her, is to get the abilities.
Well,
That's kind of what I'm thinking.
Bouncing off that, did Soren ever have his pellet in and or removed?
I don't know.
I
Probably
don't think
not.
they've ever mentioned that.
Because he knew he wanted to be a Spartan. Like,
yeah, but like,
he
so
volunteered.
maybe he had a different kind of pellet then. That's like, it wasn't like a suppressed emotions, but it was like a subtle thing that will like nag him all the time, which is why like he felt needed to go help Quan last season, why he was trying to find Halsey so much. It's just like a little thing.
Well,
Maybe.
I mean, to jump ahead a little bit quickly, just to touch on this, there's a big reveal later in the episode where they say that Soren's augmentation actually failed. So maybe it was a case of they didn't even need to put the pellet in at all.
True.
So I mean, Soren is so interesting, dude. He's such a good character. I love Soren.
He's
awesome,
got interesting
dude.
now. Like when you separate him from the pirate stuff, and now he's interesting again.
Yeah, I suppose the pirate stuff, he was so cool, but now he's just like, you were diving more into him. Soren is so awesome, dude.
I mean, if we're gonna dig into that specific part of it too, like that's where Halsey also explains to Soren that she actually saw him as being the leader before John. She was like, John looked up to you, like he was gonna be the Master Chief essentially, but because his augmentation failed, he was still partly Spartan, but he was obviously, when you fail the augmentation, you some people die from it, some people are disabled, some people are crippled. Like, it depends on, it affects everyone differently. Most of them die if they don't survive augmentation, whereas Soren, it looks like it crippled his arm for the most part.
Yeah.
But that's not to say he didn't still gain some abilities. He didn't gain some strength or the reinforcement to his body. He must. That's probably why he's such a badass now. He probably still has some ability, probably not as much as he would have liked, but maybe there's hope that he can regain some of that somehow.
Yeah, maybe so. Like, maybe the augmentation took, but it just didn't take enough. Like it kind of partially failed, partially worked. It's interesting, man. I love Soren. I can't wait to see what they do with his story.
Well, if you want to just quickly like cover this whole section right now, I loved how Halsey revealed. It's like, yeah, like why? How do you think you escaped?
Yeah, that
like,
part.
I knew about. Like I knew about it, and then Soren's like,
why weren't there guards there? Like,
yeah, it's like, how do you think you could escape a highly secure military base just like on an off day? Like,
well, like that plays into it. How does she know about Kessler and what he's been doing? She's obviously been keeping tabs on him the entire time.
That could be, sort of Halsey's plan the entire time was to let Soren go and see how he develops as a person, and then to maybe bring him back at a later stage. So it's really interesting. I think they're amping up to bring him back as a Spartan. But we'll move on from there and not talk about it too much. Next scene, we get a huge battle scene where Chief gets out onto the streets. We then meet up with Riz, who is fighting, and so is Lewis, the blind ex-Spartan. And I was like, how is this dude fighting? Like,
he's like, I can hear you.
He's blind. He's like,
he noob-tubed a couple of enemies on the building.
Dude,
he was just like
that was
going
so
nuts.
cool. First thing is like, who gave this blind guy a freaking grenade launcher? And then he nails like 3 elites, and it's like, give this guy some more grenades.
You got a rocket launcher? Give that to him instead.
Dude. Yeah, he was super badass. But we see Riz fighting, and she's like ready to go as well. Something that was interesting is, I didn't think they were going to do this, but Perez actually joined the fight as well. She got a gun and she was shooting. I thought she was going to be shell-shocked and not being able to fight at all. But she's showing that she's got a bit of a fight, which is really cool. And then, Dan, you noted there was a quote from that scene as well?
Hell yeah, we got Chief saying, I need a weapon.
I need a weapon.
And at that moment, Drew explodes with excitement.
Drew explodes.
That's what Drew's not here. He still hasn't emotionally recovered from that moment.
at the end of with last episode, Riz and Vanek were very much just like, "Oh, you're a liar, Chief. Screw you," and they left. But as soon as Riz has seen like, "Oh, he wasn't crazy," Riz is straight like, "Yep, Chief, I'm with you. Like, you need me to go and kill people? Let's go."
Mm-hmm.
And I really liked like that, even if it was a quick switch up, but it's just like shows like they understand that they made a wrong call of abandoning Chief, sort of. And I really like that because there was like no drama, no sort of anything. It's just straight
back into it. Yeah, I mean, Chief wouldn't want to waste time on that kind of stuff. But it was nice to sort of jump back into it. An interesting thing though is that Vanek and Riz are there fighting with Chief, but no Kai. Where is Kai?
I think
maybe
Kai
we'll see her.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe we'll see her later. I don't know. We'll have to wait and see. Maybe she shows up. Maybe she doesn't. But anyways, we have that cool fight scene outside. Then they head inside, and we get another really cool one-shot take inside. We get some grenades going off, blowing up a whole bunch of elites, which is super cool. One thing I'd have to say as well, dude, is the Covenant look so awesome.
They're very
like the
menacing.
CG building them, they look so amazing. Those freaking, what are they called? Is plasma swords?
Plasma swords.
They're called plasmas.
Yeah.
Are they called plasma swords?
They are plasma swords.
Yeah, they look freaking awesome, dude. I really like them. The lighting effect on them, how it changes in the environment as well, it lights up the environments. I love those. I like that attention to detail with visuals. When you have a CG element that has some kind of light to it and it still lights up the room, big fan.
I think on lighting, I think they've done a really good job, especially in this episode with the lighting and the Covenant. Because even if they didn't have enough money to improve the CG for the Covenant, the way it's shot in the lighting, it covers any imperfections. So they still look menacing and good. But like it makes it even better just because it's in a darker setting.
They did a good job of either like the elites are either invisible or they're in shadow or it's dark, but it still keeps them looking very foreboding at the same time, like a monster in the dark kind of thing.
Totally.
Like they cut in and out of the light as well. So like you know they're there, but it's like you don't have like a solid shot for the most part of like, here's our CG monster. So like you don't think of it as such for the most part.
It's a little bit of mystery behind it. Well, in that scene where we're inside, we get our first casualty of the episode, which is not one of the big ones, but Lewis's partner,
is it Danilo?
I believe his name is Danilo. Or Danilo. He is the first casualty, and obviously, like we kind of feel a little bit about him. He was set up in the last episode where we see Riz, and Riz goes to Lewis' place, and they have dinner together with Lewis and his partner. So we kind of feel a little bit for there, and I thought it was going to be interesting to see what happens next. But we get this like another cool one-shot take of like Riz throwing a grenade, and she jumps out the freaking window. Like that was dope as hell, dude.
I thought she got like
Riz
impaled.
Kicking ass.
I thought she got impaled by something when she looked at it, like her stomach. I'm like, oh, don't tell me you've like fucked yourself again. Like, come on. But no, that was just like, it was just her bag.
Riz has been through enough already this season, dude. But then we obviously, I mean, I kind of like a little dark part of me was laughing so bad when Lewis, the blind ex-Spartan, finds Riz and he's got his hand on Riz to like guide her. And just this dark part of me was thinking like, Riz, just say like, yeah, Lewis is here. You just can't see him. Like he's here though. He's here just to keep him focused and keep him going with. Is that bad? Am I a bad person?
No.
Yes.
I think I'm a bad person.
50-50 chance. It depends like if it was maliciously funny.
Oh man. But they didn't do that. So they didn't do that. And Riz immediately tells him, listen, he's gone. He's like, she's brutal about it. She says, he's gone. We can't save him. We got to get out of here. And that moment hits pretty hard. And I loved the next moment. I feel like it kind of paid off really well because we were made to care about this character, Lewis. And then he does the thing that I think is a little bit cliche. He says like, oh, I'm going to go sacrifice myself. I really like the line, I am right where I need to be, which is a big line. We're going to talk about it later. But what do we think of that? And like, he had a really cool like sacrifice scene where he takes on one of the Covenant ships, that purple ship,
Wraith.
and he goes off, and obviously the Wraith, that's what it was called. I was thinking about the name.
Yeah.
And he goes and he takes off on that. What do we think of that scene? And do you guys like it? And how do you think that's going to impact Riz? Because that's interesting.
I'm really happy that we finally saw a Wraith. I'm glad that it was given like some proper spotlight because Wraiths are a massive part of the games and they're a big pain in the ass. And I was like, oh man, like how are they going to deal with a Wraith? But they set that up. My only disappointment in that scene as awesome as it was for Louis to sacrifice himself the way he did, he didn't do it in the way a Spartan would do by climbing on the Wraith and shoving the grenade like in the manhole or something.
You
Well,
can't see.
I was going to say, it's hard to do it when you're blind.
But he's clearly still very specifically abled, you know, like he's got Spartan abilities still to some extent.
Yeah,
that
like
would have been dope as hell.
He was still a Spartan before he went blind, remember? He talked about what he used to do, and then he's like, but then the lights went out, essentially.
But now he's got a dad bod. Could you jump on a tank with a dad bod?
Spartans can. Dad bod Spartans.
Fair enough.
Dad bod Spartan.
Fair enough. Back to Halsey and Soren. We get to a very interesting scene where they run into McKay. Why do I keep calling her McKay? It's McKay. We have an interesting scene where they run into McKay, but before we even get into that, Cortana still sucks. Like
she just still looks like Ackerson's sister, though.
I'm hoping they change her back. Like they need to change her back. She still sucks. But
I think
I think
she'll change back by the next time we see her.
I don't think so.
Oh, I hope so.
Because
I like how she kind of knew exactly what was going on, and Cortana was like, run. And then we see McKay is back. McKay's back. She's official, 100%. She's alive, and she steals Cortana. And Tom, you were going to say something? Do you want to jump in?
No, I was just going to say, don't get your hopes up that her face is going to go back, because it would have if Halsey said, "You look different," or like would have like a confused face.
That's a great point.
Because if it was like, "You look different," and like Cortana could still just go and run, but she's like, "Oh well, that sets the seeds. Like we can change it." But because she just went with it,
I still think Cortana will change her appearance back, based on the notion that the AI in the Halo universe have the ability to choose their look, but Cortana currently is cut off from the outside network. So I think she's stuck on Ackerson's sister because Ackerson did that. But once she's outside and connected to the ether again, she can revert back to her old. She can make herself look whatever the way she wants. The AI in Halo universes can choose what they look like.
I hope so. I mean, there was a really quick scene, so I don't think Halsey would have had enough time to be like, "Oh, you look different."
You look a little different. That's so weird.
Maybe, but that is a good point that she didn't remark on it. She didn't say like, "Cortana, what happened?" Oh man, I'm worried, guys, because Cortana season 1 was so cool.
Her look might change every season, just like it does in the games, though. So
stupid.
Don't face shame Cortana. Don't face shame Cortana.
So it's an AI. So.
True.
Anyway, moving on. Mackie,
take the C out of your notes.
She's back. McKay. It's kind of like my surname, McKay. McKay.
Yeah.
McKay. Okay, let's remember it that way. There we go. Thanks, Dan. So McKay is back, and she steals Cortana. Why do we think she stole Cortana? What was the reason for that?
Bait for Chief.
Very possible.
Ooh,
because she knows that Cortana and Chief were sort of getting besties because of episode 8, where she's like, "Who are you talking to?" And he goes, "I've got an AI in my head." So she was like, "Hey, Chief cares about you. I can use you to get him to me, so then we can get Halo."
Great point.
That
I was like, what did they absolutely want with Cortana?
That answers a question I had about later in the show too. So I think that's a good point.
Yeah. Alrighty. Well, I mean, that kind of I was so confused about why would they go for Cortana, but that's a great point. I like that. We then move on to the next scene where we get some more sort of reactions, I guess, to the attack and what's going on. It does seem like the effects of the war and the effects of the attack and everything are taking a toll on Riz. She seems a lot more affected by everything, which I think they're really setting it up for her to I think it was Dan. I think we're saying that she might. Tom, I think you were saying that she might retire at some point.
I think it was both of us at some point.
Riz.
We both said
it.
Yeah, because we said
they say Riz might get to a point where she's like, "I don't want to be a Spartan anymore," and she retires. She leaves.
She might not even survive. She might not survive this season, honestly.
She might not survive. Yeah, with the way this episode went. But maybe that's kind of where it plays in, where there's more Spartans. Like when we get to Onyx, there's more Spartans that are going to be made, and maybe Riz is like, "Cool, I guess y'all don't need me anymore," and then she bails.
I have a different.
She seems to be taking the attack really hard. She's actually kind of shaken by it.
I have a different theory that we'll get to that later, but I just want to point out I do have a theory of how things might turn out, and it's going to be sad.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to be very sad, but we'll get to that.
Okay, we'll save it for the big sad that we're going to go through later.
Big sad.
There's a lot of big sads coming up. Perez has also definitely made an impact on Chief. I thought it was interesting. Like he's very like cold to her, and he kind of walks away.
So like when they get back to FleetCom, and then Perez is like, "Is that it? Like, you're just going to now go keep fighting?" As when Chief hooked up with Vanek and Riz, like, we need to go get our suits, and then he just gives her his lucky coin.
Oh yeah, he gives her the coin and he flings it at her, and he says heads. He calls it as he flings it at her.
But yeah, I thought that moment was really cool. It was like obviously a callback to something earlier, but I think that Chief's kind of taken a shine to Perez, and we know obviously we're going to see a little bit more of her throughout the season. So I'm interested to see the way their relationship develops. I'm liking these two. I'm loving Perez. He's one of my favorite characters of the season, man. She's really, really cool.
But then right after that, we kind of get the reveal that we're not going to get Spartan suits for like maybe an episode or two because they're gone, Chief.
The armor's gone.
Yeah, that's what I was going to get into next. And we're meeting up with Vanak. And then he lets them know, yeah, the armor's gone. Chief confronts Keys about it, and Keys says that, like, yeah, all the essential stuff has kind of been taken away. Essential staff members, I guess, and equipment has all been taken away from Reach to kind of save it, because they're like, yeah, Reach is gone. Reach is kind of effed in the B. And again, where is Kai? We're kind of like 30 minutes into this episode and we haven't seen Kai. Interesting. We'll talk about that a little bit later.
She could be doing a number of things. It could be she's fucked off, like Tom's theory, or it could be she's going to be that person that she's been out of sight, out of mind for a little while, and then she's going to appear at the last minute to save the day and be like, "Oh, Kai, shit!" You know, like, there she is. Like, she's going to show up with a pelican to save everyone at some point, but who knows? I wanted to say that I love how Keys starts that conversation with, like, "I wish you were dead to save me on the heaven that I told you so."
I love that. That's what it's going to get into next. Is we get, like, first thing I want to say, Keys is becoming such a great character, man. We love him. And he obviously lets Chief know that the Covenant completely surprised him. And, Ackerson was kind of behind the whole thing. Like, he's basically saying, like, Chief, yeah, you were right. It was a great line of dialogue for him to say, like, God, I hate this moment of you being right now. It was really, really cool. And first thing Keys says is, we got to obviously fight this, but evacuation takes priority. He's kind of saying we got to get civilians and everyone off Reach. We got to get everybody out of here. We then see, while all of this is going on, Perez is in the trauma ward. And she's kind of in trauma or whatever, and she's kind of helping people, and there's injured people everywhere. This feels like one of those scenes that you can kind of say is like a throwaway scene. It's just to like show that the character's actually doing something, but it's a great scene, and I love these scenes because it shows the effect of the attack and all the people that are injured and things like that. It's kind of that moment where you kind of slow down and catch your breath for a second, and you see all of the people that are injured, and then in the background you see Reach falling. So really, like a lot of people would say, it's kind of a throwaway scene, but it's actually quite an impactful little scene. And then we get the scene, which I think is one of the coolest in the whole episode, is Keys goes to Chief and he says, I think Chief says, "What can I do?"
What's your order, sir?
Hold my hat. Yeah, he's like, "Hold my hat." And then Keys inspires the hell out of everyone, drops another freaking F-bomb. And like I said, I kind of said maybe this might happen later on, but at this point I'm thinking, dude, Keys is so dead. He's so dead.
Admit that.
What a cool speech to like inspire everyone. I was like, yeah, this is dope.
I teared up a bit during that speech because like it hit hard as a Halo fan, because I know there's so much weight already in there for being a fan of Halo and the games and Reach, and knowing, like, we know this is it. Like the planet falls. And the way he does that speech, the way he talks about like their sacrifices are so that, children can live on and tell the stories about how they died to save them. And I was just kind of like, okay, let's go. Move on.
I like how he did in that inspirational speech as well. He called Master Chief up next to him and he said, "This is Master Chief without armor," and kind of thing. He says he's a warrior just like all of you. You guys are all warriors. Yeah. Just like him. Like, it was a really cool scene to like inspire everyone, which I really, really liked. It was a cool kind of scene for Keys, just to kind of, not to say goodbye, but just to kind of make us feel And I like the next moment where Chief speaks to Keys a little bit, and then Chief also says, "I'm exactly where I'm supposed to be."
Mhm.
Did you guys read anything into that? Because Lewis says it, and Chief says it as well. Are they trying to like tie those together, or because obviously Chief, it makes sense. I mean, this is where he needs to be.
I think it was just to show that like the Spartans like duty and like self like what they believe is right is always just to fight and to like protect in this instance. And I think they showed it with Lewis and with Chief to be like, no, this is like a thing they all have. Like this was part of their training of just like, nope, I need to be there.
Part of their training. So their job essentially is to fight until they die, and then or die fighting to protect the human race, essentially.
I mean, the entire time, like especially with Keys's like speech, like the entire episode was really hyping me up, and I felt like everything was kind of building and building and building. And it obviously gets to like huge climax, but we get back to Keys because obviously everyone splits off and does their own thing. We get back to Keys, and he meets up with Halsey, and I love this scene because Soren is amazing. I love Soren because Keys comes in and he's like Halsey, and then Soren just walks into frame and he goes, and Soren.
And
Soren.
And I love him. And then Keys is like, "You're a pirate." And Soren's like, "Small business owner."
He was like, so much comic relief in that scene,
dude.
Like, and with his like Ben Hedges like small business owner, and then this keep going, and then
he's
in the elevator, and like they're starting to figure, he's just like, "Get a room."
He's so good, dude. I love Soren so much.
I am glad that they mentioned Miranda in the elevator, and they say that she's off planet, and Keys is like, "Thank God she's off planet." And that's what we were like, "Where's Miranda?" And I'm like, well, "She's probably off planet." So I'm glad that they're setting that up for the future where Miranda can come back around in the future.
So sticking with them, we get Keys is busy helping everybody, all the civilians, onto the ship. And first thing I have to ask is, I didn't know, but is that the Pillar of Autumn?
No,
that was not.
It's just like a civilian transport ship.
Yeah, it was way too small to be the Pillar of Autumn.
So I was gonna say, like, I just wanted to make sure they're okay. So
we're not there yet.
Nothing big just yet. We're not there yet. But obviously Keys is helping all the civilians get on the ship. He tells Perez, who's like very much taking charge as well, says to Perez, get everybody on the ship. And I thought this was interesting is that Soren kind of like stops, and then he actually sees the Covenant coming. They've got their cloaking and everything, and he actually sees them make it up onto the hangar.
He's like, "What's that noise?" And Halsey's like, "What noise?"
So this is again where I'm like, Soren's definitely got some ability as a Spartan.
Because it parallels Chief earlier in the episode when he could see the Covenant and no one else could, and Soren could now.
Bam! There you go. So that was interesting, and obviously they get into a big fight on the hangar.
Not to mention those jackals looked awesome. Like, holy shit, those jackals look scary.
Yeah. I was going to say, at least we're starting to get more different types of Covenant as well, and not just the elites, which pretty much just seen the elites.
We need more grunts, but the grunts are not, they're comedy reliefs, so we can't have the grunts in the serious stuff that we got right now. Because the grunts are too funny.
But that was really cool, and it was kind of like Soren was like, yeah, let's light them up, buy them time to get everybody onto the ship. And then obviously we have the big moment where Keys, he wants to start the ship and get out of there, but they see that the fuel lines are still connected. So Keys is like, "Corporal, do you know how to fly this ship?" And she's like, not without you on it." And then he's like, just do you know how to fly the ship? And then he gets off, and Keys disconnects the fuel line, but he sees that all of the UNSC and the ONI people have been destroyed, and it's kind of just all of the Covenant around Keys. And at that moment, you're thinking, oh, brother. But he disconnects the fuel lines, and obviously he gives them a way to escape. And Dan, I've seen you've highlighted this moment. So what did you think of the scene?
I highlighted the pipe. He pulls out the pipe. That's a key item of Keys from the video games. I don't remember if they've shown it in the show before. Maybe they showed it before, but
I don't think
I just thought it was like critical for Keys because in the games and the books, he has the pipe, but he doesn't smoke it. It's just like a thing because like it belonged to like his grandfather or something. So it was just one of those character moments of like, he's got the pipe, yeah.
And I just loved how he looked at the Covenant with zero fear, and he kind of just looked at them with the smoke, and he said, "Got a light?" And then obviously, because the fuel was disconnected, he lights it and big explosion. Bye keys.
But no, it's okay. Okay, because I've learnt my lesson of nobody.
I don't think
death.
Keys is dead. I was gonna.
Yeah.
No,
I was gonna pull it.
Also, leading up to this, we had when the Spartans were on the bridge, and like they were defending it, and that's when Keys was like, "Hey guys, we need help up here. Like, get your asses up here." So, and the entire time I was thinking like, "Oh, they're gonna, the last second, Chief's gonna punch through and grab Keys, and they're still gonna explode, but they're gonna save it." But because we don't see the body, unlike a certain someone else,
no,
and because I've learned from Dan
Bang, bang.
being right
Bang, bang.
and being annoying about it, I don't think he's dead.
We did.
He's
We don't
I love
see
his
him
character.
die.
yet.
I love his character, but I honestly hope he is dead. As bad as it sounds, because it's such a cool, like, it's a heroic sacrifice. It's a good character moment for him. I really don't. I hope they don't do that like bait and switch of like, oh, he's still alive. I feel like it's just weak. I hope he stays dead.
He might be dead, which is fine for the way they're going with this show, with this storyline. I am hopefully optimistic that he's not dead, because he's way too integral to the future of the story in the canon of the games and stuff. But then again, they could be doing their own thing. That's fine. I'll be okay with it if they do.
Know.
But there's also things like Stranger Things, where you think a character's dead the entire season, but then, oh, look, they just dodged out of the way and they survived the giant explosion you thought consumed them.
If his Keys is dead, maybe Soren takes his place in the story.
It's possible.
Because
Perez, I think Perez will kind of get a promotion.
I need Sergeant Johnson. Sergeant Johnson needs to get his ass in there.
Johnson.
Where's
But
Johnson?
I just think because Soren still has all the knowledge of military tactics, he still knows a lot about the UNSC, and in Halo 1, that's all the Flood want. And if we're gonna go the same sort of story beats, I could see Soren taking Keys' spot in. So maybe that's what they're doing.
Yeah, that's
which is
definitely
depressing.
possible. Yeah. So right after the death of Keys, we have a moment where Halsey looks out at the destruction of Reach, and we think, okay, cool, well, there's our big final moment. But wait, it's not over. There's more Covenant, and one of my favorite parts of the episode is we get Soren and Chief fighting together. Finally.
Yes.
We haven't seen them fight together. So like that was hype when they're both taking cover.
They were like
shooting.
perfectly in tune with each other too.
Yeah, there was like a little thing where Soren like rolls around the back of Chief and keeps shooting. That was dope. And then we have one of the bigger moments of the episode. I am pretty sure this was the Arbiter or an Arbiter, and this was the Arbiter versus Chief round 1. Like there was the big battle between these two guys, and Chief was like, Chief was holding his own with no armor. So I'm really excited to see a rematch.
It's so amazing too when he gets a hold of that plasma sword and you're like, yeah, get it.
I was hyped, dude. I was like, yeah, let's go.
But then, just like the video games, you get sniped by a random energy pistol out of nowhere.
Dude, and how brutal was it? The Arbiter was like, "It's my fight," and he turns it, just slices the guy's head off. I was like, "Damn, bro."
Yeah. That was
but
great.
A pretty interesting end to that is the Arbiter. Well, I'm sure it's an Arbiter. He's about to finish Chief off, and then McKay. I got it right this time, guys. McKay stops the Arbiter before he can finish Chief, and it's like,
and she says, "Not
why
yet."
Why did he do that? Not yet. So they obviously need Chief for something.
That was part of my question too. Was like, why did McKay stop him? Why does he why does he stop when she stops him? Clearly, he wanted to kill Chief, but why does McKay want to keep him alive? But then Tom had that theory about Cortana, and that makes me go, okay.
Little threads of things. It's very, very interesting. We then Chief is still on the ground. He's still pretty hurt, and Vanek. Why do I get everyone's names wrong? Vanek.
It's okay.
Then grabs one of the stingers.
Needler.
Stinger, right?
Needler.
He grabs one of the needlers from one of the Covenant and shoots the Arbiter. Nails him with one, and the Arbiter's just like, whatever, dude. He pulls it out and stabs Vanek.
And of course, it explodes, which is what needles do after they embed in somebody. They explode. And Vanek.
And we say bye to Vanek, which is, I mean, Keys' death. Keys' death was heavy, but this one just hit home, dude.
See, now that was where when Vanek died, and you see him laying on the ground, lifeless, with a hole in his chest and his eyes just staring blankly. I was like, "That's how you kill a character on screen. We know he's dead. We don't know Keys is dead."
Also, just like the look he gives Chief, just as they both realize, and Vanek's just like, "Yep, that's dude," and then that was sad.
It was kind of that look of respect as well, of kind of like Vanek, like he obviously didn't have time to say any of the stuff, but it was that look of like, it's been an honor, Chief. Like, I'm glad I got to die fighting by your side, kind of thing. Like, it was it's such a cool moment. And it was something we were talking about before the show, is like, there were characters that, like Lewis, Keys to an extent, Vanek, characters that, like, I don't want to say we should have seen it coming, but it was kind of like there were hints that these characters were caring about them. They're getting more screen time, that they possibly could die. But all three of them, and what I love about this episode is all three of them, their deaths felt earned and emotionally impactful. It wasn't just like, we need something dramatic to happen, so we're going to kill off one of the main characters like they do on The Walking Dead or Game of Thrones. It's kind of like, who do you care about? We're going to kill them quickly.
If we could relate any one of the Spartans currently to Noble Team, because all of Noble Team dies in the in the Fall of Reach, so they could be kind of like paying homage to that.
Well, it's funny you say that, because after this, because it's ending now, it pans up to see the hole in the roof. I would have loved it if you just saw like a sniper jackal up there that was about to take the shot. So it's like Cat. So that would have been funny. Well, not funny, but like it would have been like a cool thing. Like, they could have, but they changed it, but we didn't.
I mean, if they did that, it would have went whoosh over my head. I wouldn't have put the two together of like, oh yeah, Cat got sniped, like.
Yeah.
Well, that, I mean, in terms of the whole episode, reaching that moment of the episode, I mean, this is the first big L of the season for the good guys. This is a huge battle that's lost for the big guys in the season.
I mean, it's the first
we'll see where they go from
Silver Team member to fall.
Yeah, in 2 seasons. I mean, Riz kind of should have died at the end of season 1, but she showed how tough she is. But it's the first big loss for our good guys and our protagonists in the story. So I really feel like this is the moment that things are going to start to get like a lot more emotionally impactful. One thing I wanted to note on as well is that final shot of watching the bird flying to watch. Sort of as the episode kind of cuts away, was like so sad, because that was obviously one of Vanek's birds that he was feeding at the beginning of the episode, and it's like, stop TV show, stop making me feel,
stop twisting the knife,
stop doing it. He's dead, just let him stop it. Oh man, I love those shots though, where like they kind of like something intense happens and then they kind of camera, like it's like a juxtaposition, something awful just happened and the camera just pans to something beautiful. I love those kinds of shots. They're always so emotionally impactful. I love them. And that's how we ended episode 4. A jam-packed episode that had character deaths, it had action, it had Chief being a badass, and no Kai at all. So
traitor.
We have our theories. Traitor. We just call him traitor straight up.
Traitor.
So that is your episode breakdown, your sit rep for episode 4. Let's now dive into our scoreboard and see what we all thought of episode 4, season 2. Righties. So, scoreboards. Who wants to go first?
You should.
Me? Okay, I'll go first. I haven't actually gotten first. I will say right up front, I think this is my favorite episode of the season so far, even more than last week's episode. It's our first big action-packed episode of the season, and man, did it deliver. There was a lot of really big action set pieces. There was some big heroic sacrifices, some deaths that really hit hard. I think there's some that should have felt soft, like Lewis. I shouldn't have really cared about him because it's a side character that like didn't get much screen time, but it's still like I cared about this dude. I felt bad for him. I felt bad that he lost his partner, Danilo, and then he sacrificed himself. I was like I actually care about these characters. The show is definitely pulling me in. which I'm loving so far. I'm really, really enjoying the show. And each of these character deaths, as we went through them, just hit harder than the last one. So it kind of amped and it kept going up and up and up throughout the whole episode. The action was really well shot, choreographed. It was well acted, well written. I think this was a superb episode of television. And there was so much fan service in this episode as well. I don't see a lot of adaptations doing that, where they give a really good episode or a really good movie or something, and they also give a lot of fan service. So I really like this episode for that. This was a huge episode. It could be a standout episode for the season, and it's a great launching point forward. The only thing I'm kind of hesitant about is that they kind of like advanced everyone's plot. Like everyone's kind of advanced. So I'm kind of like, oh, where do you take everyone next? Without making it feel like, oh, we need to like just, fill an episode until we can get to the big climax. But I've got full faith in these guys. The payoff from last week's tension building felt so great and really, really, really well earned. So for me, out of 10 this week, I give an episode a 9. I said it. It's a 9.
That's fair.
Every episode for me has gotten better. It was a 7, 7.5, 8.5, 9. Next week's a 9.5 or even a 10. It's just getting better.
I really enjoyed it as well. Like I probably enjoyed it like as much as last week, but like in a different way.
That's it.
I loved the constant one shot takes. I thought it made the show feel different, and it made it feel like set it apart from one last season and two just other like sci-fi shows in a way. Loved everything they did. I kind of, even though Vanek died, I kind of wish she didn't, because I wanted more of him. And as Dan says, I don't think Keys is dead, because I've learned my lesson to no body, no death.
Nobody, no death. Sorry.
Even when they've been eaten by little bugs.
Yeah, even when no. But yeah, I have theories of where things would go. I think Kai's with Axon and Onyx, and I kind of want Riz to die or whatever, so then Sheik can blame it all on Kai and be like, hey, you left us, you took our armor, this is on you, bitch.
Yeah,
that's my big theory as well. Like I feel like Kai's gonna be like, oh, I thought you were mentally unstable, and then Chief is like, Kai, like the other two are dead, they didn't have an armor because of you, and then make Kai feel really bad because she's a traitor.
Oh, that would be great. Like the confrontation.
Yeah, like they're gonna, like Chief and they're gonna go to Onyx, and like Riz has probably like sacrificed herself, and then Kai's like, where are the others? And he's like, yeah,
they died because of you.
Because you sided with Axon and you took the armor.
If Kai was aware of what Ackerson was doing and that they were bouncing from Reach, wouldn't she become aware that Chief was right about what was happening on Reach, though?
But
Ackerson might have gotten to her, though, and kind of not manipulated, but convinced her that it was a good idea to leave. Reach was lost.
The whole question was Chief mentally stable? And the questioning was, he was like, oh, the Covenant are on Reach and there's these things happening, but everybody was saying that wasn't happening. It's because he's seeing things. But I would assume once Kai learned that that's actually happening, and Ackerson's like, oh yeah, we're getting the fuck out of here because the Covenant are coming, she'd be like, oh, Chief was right.
We'll have to see what they do with it next week. What do you got for us, Dan?
My score for this week's episode, after this. No. I think that this is easily one of the best possible adaptations of Halo that's been presented on film to date. It's the closest thing that felt like you were in the video game, but in cinema, where there's a lot of hectic gunfights, there's a lot of character-driven moments, there's a lot of heart. You get the stoicness of Chief, but you also get the feels of the humans and that contrast between the two, like you feel in the games. You get those really harsh realizations of what's happening in the world around you and how just devastating the Covenant are for the humans and just wrecking the shit out of everything. As far as television goes of this entire show, I think this is the best episode of the Halo show that they've made so far. It's easily better than all the rest of them in all regards possible, in the writing, the action. Like, there are other episodes in the show that have great action, and then there's other episodes that have great writing, but this show has all of it. It has all of the action. all the elements, and a
Everything.
lot of those moments of like the gunfights in the streets, they feel straight out of like Halo ODST or Halo Reach, the video games.
True.
Like they felt very grounded in the war of those games, especially the ODST part of it, because you've got the Spartans without their armor, so they have to fight as a normal soldier. I mean, they're still amplified, obviously, but they're not protected by their armor, so there's a much greater risk, and like it just has so much more weight to it. I give this episode of the show a 10 because I just loved everything about it.
We got a 10, everybody.
I loved all the Easter eggs. I loved all of the fan service. I like, there was multiple quotes from the games. There was multiple references to the games. There's multiple just things, just like the Xbox, like that's me being a super nerd fanboy. But so good. Yeah, you're gonna have to get the screenshot of that. I don't know if we're gonna not to use it as a thumbnail.
I'm gonna put it on screen for that'll be our 4th cast member for the entire podcast. Is just
the Xbox.
The Xbox there, the entire screen. The entire podcast just there.
But yeah,
it's really blurry and like low res.
I like that they're doing a lot of course correcting. I feel like Pablo Schreiber playing the Chief is really nailing it now. And like I've gotten to this point now, the more I'm reading the books and the more I'm thinking about it, no one ever has ever described what John looks like. But in the books, John is just a kid who is very skilled and very talented, and she gets picked up by Halsey. So it's like, what difference does it make what he looks like? That's the whole point, is he's supposed to be just like an everyman. But I think that now that they're leaning into the stoicness of it, like he clearly feels the weight, but it's delivered in the eyes and the looks, and just I get what's happening, but me saying anything doesn't change that at all. Even to the point of like Keyes talking about like all the crap that's been going down, and he's like, "You're right," and he's like, "But it changes nothing. The truth of the situation is we're fucked, and we got to do everything we can to just make the most out of the situation we're in.
Unfuck it." Yeah. I like as well. Like I saw Pablo Schreiber said that he really liked the sort of darker turn that they were planning to do for season 2, and he's really come to his own as the character. I've liked him from the beginning. I thought he's pretty good, but I'm definitely like, I don't want to say warming up to him, but I'm starting to like him even more. He's he's nailing the performances. As that kind of, it's like anyone can kind of play stoic by just being like quiet and whatever, but everything that he does feels very calculated and clever. It's not just stoic to be stoic, it's stoic for like a purpose, like I'm trying to convey this sort of thing. I absolutely love Pablo throughout the entire thing. So that is our scoreboard for episode 4 of Halo season 2. Obviously we really loved the episode. I'm loving the series so far, guys. Are you guys enjoying it?
It's definitely improvement.
It's very, very much improved over the previous season. So yeah, I'm pretty happy so far.
That was less hype than I was hoping for, but still cool.
Let's go!
This is so cool.
I love it so much.
There it is. That's
Spartan.
We hope you guys are. We hope you guys are enjoying the show as well at home. Hope you're enjoying the Watching Now podcast on Halo season 2, and we will see you guys again next week on Tuesdays, 2 p.m. PST over here on CouchSoup. Catch us a day early if you are a member on couchsoup.com. You can listen to the podcast audio only wherever you listen to your podcasts and everything. Consider becoming a member as well, because hey, why not? And we will see you same time, same place next week. See you then, Spartans.
Spartans out.
Spartans out. We need more quotes, dude.
There are lots of quotes.
Like sign off the show. Yeah, there's lots of quotes. We'll get one.
Dadbot Spartan. That's the quote. Spartan.
The mission changed.
That's the quote. That's the quote.
Dadbot.
Dadbot Spartan.
Dadbot Spartan.
Dadbot Spartan out.